the heavy attack in video games, where one character takes a big wind up and then power strikes their opponent. It either is unblockable or it deals devastating damage if it hits, but it's a lot slower. So the question is, does it work in a real fight? Let's find out. So, like with all of our videos, we're going to do a mix of just doing the technique to see if it works statically without the other person doing something, and then a mix of doing it in an actual bout without warning to see, can they defend against it if they're not expecting it. Of course, Matt knows the premise of what's going to happen. We couldn't do this video otherwise, but I mean, you'll see. It's not that. It wouldn't matter if he didn't. Okay. All right, here we go. Just start out with just the technique. Ready? I want to see if this heavy attack is unblockable.
Okay.
All right, ready? Ooh, that felt nasty, but did you block that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a sturdy sword.
Huh?
These swords are great.
Yeah, they take a beating.
They take a beating every week.
That took 0 extra energy on my part at all.
How hard was that cut?
Felt hard.
It was hard.
I could feel through the, feedback through the blade that it was hard, but I didn't find myself having to.
Yeah. So here's a light cut. Tell me which one takes more effort to parry.
Okay. That second one did feel more impactful.
But was it harder to
No,
parry?
it wasn't.
Yeah.
The physiology of these blades is such that, the cutting portion of this blade is out where the leverage is higher.
Yeah.
And the parrying portion is where I have more control.
Yeah, so
it's not hard to parry.
The cut, you want to cut with this part because I have the most momentum and leverage. At the end of that, I'm moving the load through space there. But he has more power to stop it down here. We talked about this in a previous video. This is the foible mid-blade in the forward or German style. Strong is the top and weak is strong is the bottom, weak is the top. Yeah.
Even if you did do that to where you might hit the weak of my sword, it would mean that you're not really within range anyway.
Yeah.
And what I would do if you did that would be a seating parry or something.
So what you're saying?
So, if you hit the weak part,
yeah, if I hit the weak part, I'm not.
You go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in range to actually attack. So let's go ahead and try it out in suspense. I'm not going to tell you when it's going to happen. You're welcome to throw it too.
Okay.
We got kind of a small camera today, so we're going to do our best.
We'll try to stay in frame.
We go off frame. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. Ready?
I'll keep an eye on it.
Thanks. I actually missed.
That's the other thing I was going to say about it is if I see you going like this,
yeah,
there's only one thing you can do. Really.
I really tried for that. I did telegraph it because the heavy attack is telegraphed.
You have to.
I didn't pull that. When I tried this, I pulled back to here and I shot for it, and that just took like one step. Once I had committed all of this energy into the cut, I couldn't stop it. I could not stop. And I saw him move. And I saw my own sword go, oh no, in slow motion. It's not faster and it's not more powerful. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay.
See if we can make it work. Would that have stopped you?
Yeah.
It wasn't a heavy attack, it was something else.
Well, it was a fairly heavy attack.
Yeah, but
it proves a point that you don't have to do this to hit hard.
What I
We
did
can talk about that later, though.
Was as Matt thrust in, I made a cut here. Did I get on this side of you?
Yeah.
And I rolled it to the other side. So I had momentum behind it, but it wasn't a heavy attack. It was still very much in front of my body. All right, ready?
Yes.
Was that your heavy attack?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty easy to block.
As much as I was willing to do comfortably.
Yeah, right?
Because it feels weird to even do
It
it.
feels hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got my fingers.
I need to repair this glove. It's getting my thumb hit a lot.
Okay, I'll try not
No,
to.
don't worry about it. I got it. It doesn't hurt.
Cool. That's another thing. If you have to take a second to pull back.
He was starting to do a heavy attack, wasn't he?
I was thinking about it, yeah.
And all I had to do was this, and And that's it. That attack was over. It's just, and we realize in video games there is a punishment for the heavy attack. The heavy attack, as you do it, you are vulnerable, which is part of the video game mechanics.
Yeah.
The issue is even if the timing of hitting it is part of the mechanics, the ease to block it is such that it doesn't make a big difference. Now, you could say that sure, you can get your heavy attacks parried in video games too, if you do it right. There's some games that let you parry heavy attacks. So the advantage is, if that attack hits, it's very devastating. My argument there is that it's really not much more devastating than a normal attack.
No.
It does have more power behind it, and perhaps your sword will sink that much deeper into your opponent. Perhaps you'll take off a limb, but the question is why? In a bout, in a match, or in war, or anything, the only thing I have to do to my opponent is hinder them from fighting further or kill them. You can't extra kill them. You don't get bonus points if their arm falls off.
You can't super kill somebody?
You can't super kill someone.
Well, okay.
So, but like, here's the point, right? If I'm here and Matt's here, and let's say he attacks me here, and I parry, and I riposte to there, that action is enough to split his skull.
Pretty much, yes.
That's enough to do, probably kill him.
Yeah.
If I hit with the sword, I'm gonna hit you, okay?
Okay.
That much power, that hurt?
No, it didn't hurt. It was loud.
It was loud.
I could tell it was hard.
All I needed was an extension and a twist because this sword is built to focus on leverage. So all I need is that extension and that twist. It's very quick, and that's probably a killing blow.
And if you do need more,
I can follow up.
You can incorporate
Go ahead.
a pivot into it.
Yeah, you can
And
incorporate.
that adds a little bit.
Yeah.
But the way I was taught to cut with these, even in blunt fencing by my coach, is to imagine where you want your cut to end.
Yeah.
And for a normal debilitating cut on an unarmored person, I would imagine my cut ending just inside wherever I'm aiming.
So
like an inch or two in.
What I do with my cut is you can see the hand placement. A straight line, so well, I wouldn't do this stage combat anymore, it's kind of a beginner level thing.
Sure.
But I extend it to where the target ends. There's a straight line to my arms. When I'm cutting in fencing, my line is here. So if I were to continue this cut, if his head weren't there, it would go to about there. So that's the difference.
Right.
And that's the power I have. When I cut here, my force is continuing past his head. These were very sharp. The leverage was very powerful. I would probably, I don't know that I would go, depends on the sword, depends on the head, depends on the skull. I might go into the brain. I might just cut hard enough to deal enough damage that he has a... Yeah.
Sorry, if you just imagine, if you cut as hard as you did into my bare head, you would for sure be in my skull. I don't know if you'd go through, but the pain would be unbearable.
Excruciating.
Scalps bleed like crazy.
You can't see now. Probably have a concussion.
It would stun me. You could do a follow-up.
Yeah. If you hit someone in the head, the chances are that they are out of the fight. If not just from being in shock and done, they're not going to have the... I mean, like, of course, humans are crazy and stuff happens sometimes, but if I do this and I hit him, he's not going to have the wherewithal to stop me from doing the next cut. He's not going to have the wherewithal to give a good attack. And even if he did, I could probably get that and go back in. He's probably done. But even more than that, right? So let's say I don't hit his head. Let's say he cuts here, and I get an attack, boom, to there. That hurt? I'm sorry.
No.
But I only had to cut about that much. And I went soft on that because that's bare skin. But that would be enough to cut into the tendons of his arm and probably render this arm useless for holding a sword.
Probably.
I mean, like, I didn't cut very hard on that one because it's, you know, it's...
I could tell that you could have.
Yeah, I could have. Because from here to here, just give me the actual padded part of the sword for me, so I can just do that cut.
What do you mean? Oh,
Just the padded part of your arm.
Oh.
Yeah. So I do the other side, like right about there. So this is how far that cut was. You tell me if you think this would cut.
Yes.
Yeah, that hurt.
Yes. It didn't hurt.
We have extra padding on here.
It didn't hurt, but it almost hurt.
Yeah,
This thing is got some plastic sheets in it that are really stiff.
And I did pull a little bit on that because again,
I felt it in my bones a little bit. It didn't hurt. I'll just say that I felt the shock of it in my arm.
That would have gone deep.
Yeah.
And that was only from here to here. Like I said, that is an extremely powerful cut. So you could potentially get more power. from all of that combined. The question is it necessary? Is it necessary, and is it smart?
No, in fact, not to make this too long, but I am now remembering how I used to watch videos from HEMA tournaments in Europe and stuff,
Yes.
some of the big ones.
Let's come closer.
One of the bigger tournaments in Europe, I forget which one it was. Maybe it wasn't even in Europe. I don't know.
Whatever.
There was a huge HEMA tournament, and they had a cutting competition
Yeah.
against tatami mats.
Yeah.
And one of the tests was there were 3 tatami rolls, 5 inches thick on top of each other, and you had to see how far you could get through just straight down. A lot of the guys
Oh, you told me about
didn't seem to have very good technique. Some of them literally were doing that, literally just spreading their legs.
How hard can I throw it
just
down?
smashing it down, and a couple of them got kind of far, blah, blah, blah. And then this guy, I think his name is Jake Norwood. He's a really good HEMA fencer. He's been doing it for a long time. He came up to the mats, and he went just from here, and he just pivoted it in like that. And he went like almost all the way through all of them.
It's
because
about
the mechanics were better.
It's about body mechanics, because if you're using your arms alone to throw this, the only muscles that you're recruiting are your triceps, your wrists, and your lats. Maybe some core if you're pulling down.
Well,
but if I'm going from here and I have my feet behind me, now I've got my hips, my core, my triceps, my lats, all working together,
And some forward
and
motion.
some forward
A little
motion.
bit of downward motion.
When you incorporate your legs, the most powerful part of your body, I can go swipe a lot faster. So from here is more powerful than this.
And, I mean, you could hit the ground pretty hard with that second one, and you don't want to do that.
No, I don't want to put my power into the ground. I want to put it into the opponent. And as you saw when we were fencing, there's just so much dead time where there's the wind up, which you're vulnerable. There's the attack, which is out of control, and then there's this part where you're vulnerable again. So just like when we talked about the spins, just like we talked about the overpowered stuff, it's not just about that attack landing. It's not here, sort of face. It's not. It's not just about the attack landing, because to get the attack to land, there's so many other things that could work. Could that attack devastate you? Devastate damage.
Yes.
If it hits.
If I stood there.
If he stood there.
If I stood there and you hit, yeah. it would
Against
be
an
horrible.
incompetent opponent or against someone who just didn't react in time. Again, fencing is not like a formula where you plug X and Y and you get the same outcome.
Right.
It's always dependent on the other fencer. So there's a world where that attack would hurt. But I would argue that attack thrown from here, which is a powerful stance, because a lot of my attacks were even thrown from further out like this. This is what I consider a light attack, and it would still be pretty devastating from there. This, to me, this is a power attack to me. This is my heavy attack, because now I have just a little bit more momentum to go on. I would never come back here. And you'll
Right.
see in some of the HEMA books, especially Myers, I don't really like some of the Myers stuff because I feel like it's more stylized than the other ones, and I think it's about looking pretty. Not the technique itself, but the book. Because there's technique like the Zorn hut is from here, and look how open this is.
Yeah.
I've seen Zornhau thrown from here very effectively. From this position, because you have all those body mechanics we talked about.
And
The
even though
addition-
you're a bit withdrawn,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
things suddenly change, you could
You could come
do
back.
this
So
pretty quickly.
so from here, a Zornhau from here, if this is your Zorn hut, and you throw Zornhau from here, you still have all the mechanics of Zornhau. But if you're throwing it from back here, which is exactly how it looks in the book, I have to come all the way around and then go out. And it could be used to gain some distance. I've seen people use it and throw it across long distances. If I saw someone standing like this, I would just walk over here and be like, all right, when you're done with that dumb stance, I'll fight you.
It's possible that I haven't read if there's any accompanying text on those. I don't know what it
There's
says,
always, yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised if that could be somehow a useful maybe invitation.
Yeah, and I've seen some of that, like if
like
you,
a taunt or something, you know.
I think a lot, because there is like Fool's Guard and stuff like that from down here that
Yeah.
invites it in. But the majority of stuff I've seen on Zornhut, the Myers version of it, is this way back here, and it's just too open. To me, it's the same concept as that withdrawal for the heavy attack. Yeah, I would much rather throw from here because I still, if I wanted to, I could even rest it on my shoulder, so I still have that twist from the
Oh,
shoulder.
but that's another thing. You don't have to rest this on your shoulder. It weighs 2.5 pounds. It's not heavy.
No, but part of one of the explanations of the technique is to use the shoulder as a fulcrum point. I don't really agree with that because I don't think you need it.
You don't need anything.
I don't think you do.
And it screws up your body mechanics because instead of focusing on doing a nice clean pivot like this, now you're like.
No, I agree. But you could if that's what you're looking for.
Sure.
I prefer it from up here in this kind of modified thumb tog position because I like to throw it through there and I think I get just as much power. And if I see something happening, I can come right back down to here.
I think there's an almost identical Fiore position.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
same weapon, same people.
And again, I think that doesn't come down to Myers being bad necessarily. I think it comes to the art style of the period. That period is when we saw a lot of very embellished stuff.
Sure.
It's I think about 1530
Yeah.
is when his school was going, if I remember. And so they're just getting into really pretty paintings. So having all of these pants were very poofy. So having this position, but the heavy attack I think falls into that same category. It's just too big. It's too big and too slow. If it hit, would it work? Yeah. Is it going to hit? Probably not.
Probably not. But in your Dark Souls 3 with your giant unrealistic sword, it looks freaking great.
And that's the other thing that we always come back to this on our video game stuff. It doesn't matter if it would work in real life because it has to fit in the game mechanics.
Well, and if some of those swords in that game are so big, you literally might have to start.
Yeah, if your sword weighs, what is it? So some of the swords are like 50 pounds.
They look like
you're going like, if I had to throw a 50-pound sword, I'd throw it from here with my shoulder because I'm not doing it otherwise.
Because if you try to hold that,
if you're trying to hold 50 pounds, I could hold 50 pounds like this, but it would have to be a dumbbell. If it was at the end of something, I'm resting it on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And again, most video games that have swords in them are fantasy, so we understand that. But we also see this in a lot of choreography, and again, that's also fantasy, but when it's set in a realistic setting, personally, I would like to see more realism.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more realism in video games. There are video games out there that do it.
But I don't know where the movie thing necessarily comes from. If actors move a little slower because they're a little bit less comfortable because they're not stunt people.
Most sword fights in movies are not done by swordsmen.
Right.
They're done by actors who have had a little bit of training. There are obviously exceptions like Viggo Mortensen. He trained his butt off to be able to do that. Bob Anderson, he was the best.
Viggo Mortensen was the best swordsman he'd ever worked with. And
with.
Bob Anderson did basically every sword thing from like the 50s, 40s on.
Yeah, amazing. Bob Anderson's my favorite fight director.
Yeah.
But no,
He's
like,
a fencer.
and again, like even Lord of the Rings has unrealistic combat in a lot of times.
Yeah.
But there are actors who put in the time. Most of them don't. So I understand where that's going from a big budget perspective. You want star power. You don't necessarily need to do a sword. But I'd like to see more of it. We've kind of gotten off topic.
No, it's okay.
But that's kind of how these videos go.
Yeah.
So last check, the heavy attack. Does it work? No. Is it still cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with a big sword.
Especially with the big sword. So keep killing those. What do they kill in Dark Souls? Everything.
Oh man.
Give me a Dark
Souls.
Give me a specific Dark Souls enemy.
A Dark Souls enemy?
Yeah, give me one.
Lothric Knight.
Keep killing the Lothric Knight with your, what's a good Dark Souls weapon?
Ultra Great Sword.
Ultra Great Sword. What should they do
+3.
What should they do to the like button?
They should power attack the like button.
Power attack the like button. And what should they do to the subscribe button? Drink an Estus?
Yeah.
Yeah, drink an Estus for the subscribe button.
That was me drinking an Estus. Gotta make a slurp noise. What? Come on.
PG!